Hey folks, fellow bacon lover Andy Wing here, maker of Chief Puzzle Officer, coming up soon joining the Rated R Bamsters podcast. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about Chief Puzzle Officer, what kind of game it is, where can you download it, some of the philosophy behind it, and my favorite type of bacon.
Hello guys and welcome back. Welcome back to an episode that I've forgotten the number of. Again, I believe it's 57, it could be 58. Jolly, can you correct me?
I would rather not. I don't know what the episode number is.
There we go. See, I don't remember these things because my brain is a bit frazzled right now. I'm still trying to catch up on The Walking Dead. I'm only currently halfway through season 5. Yes, I know. I'm way behind. Anyway, Jolly, you have come back. Welcome back, sir. You have had a bit of a hiatus.
I never left. I never left. What are you talking about? I've been here. I've been just twiddling away. You guys didn't want to talk to me. I've been here.
We've been ignoring the Americans because, you know, because of things that are happening over that side are a bit silly. And yeah.
We vote one Oompa Loompa in, and they don't send me any more messages.
Fucking Oompa Loompa. He has got a bit of a tan, I'll give you that, mate. He's got a bit of a fucking tan on him, I'll give you that. Anyway, enough about that silliness. Jolly, welcome back to the news, my good man. And for today's first topic, G and I covered a topic last week where NASA basically downgraded a planet in Capsion, Kepler, fucking whatever B, whatever. It's uninhabitable, rather. This week, they've announced 7 new planets orbiting a star. It happens to be a red dwarf, similar to the one that they've already discredited. And it has like 7 planets orbiting around it, all of which are Earth-like, as in size, rocky planets or whatever have you, found by the Spencer Space Telescope, which is basically doing a scouting mission before the other one that's just going to take a picture of these planets. So this is a pretty cool little tidbit of spacey type news and things.
Indeed, 7 freaking little Earth-sized planets, all real close to each other. And I want to say 3 of them were actually in a zone that they think would be inhabitable by us, or our future generations, rather, not us, because it's still, 40 light years away or something like that?
Mate, it's fucking far, right? The Spitzer Space Telescope found this. It's like 40-odd million bazillion light years. It could be fucking next door. It's miles, mate. It's fucking miles. It'll take us a couple of 100,000 years to get there, you know, via normal travel. But this is actually very, very interesting because the James Webb Telescope, again, is going to be launched in 2018, and it's actually going to take pictures of these planets that this satellite, this telescope has actually found. So we could be taking a picture of some dude on another planet taking a shit. You know, that just that just blows my mind. It's like, oh, check that out. Neanderthal dude from TRAPPIST-1 system, planet 4, whatever, is taking a massive dump. And look, he's not even washing his hands. Dirty bastard! That's my take on it.
See, you're saying Neanderthals, but they could be so far, if, say, there was peoples there already, they could be so far in front of us. Like, we're the Neanderthals.
Oh, yeah. I agree. They could be, you know, the space whizzes and have the Jetson sort of lifestyle. Meanwhile, we're the Neanderthals. Good point, Charlie. Good bloody point. Speaking about good points, another topic I want to bring up to you. The Uncharted movie apparently has an R-rated script. And apparently the developers know nothing about it, and it's causing a big stink. You know, I really do think they should keep the R-rated script because a lot of films have been, I want to say, dumbed down or toned down. Just look what happened to Suicide Squad. I reckon if they kept the original script and kept the R rating, it wouldn't have been a mismatch of it was horrible. It was horrible. They could have done so much better with it. So I really hope they keep the R rating and they don't let old media and freaking social justice numbskulls fuck it up because these people don't play that game. You're making the game for people who love video games, who enjoy the story, who enjoy the game, what the developers have been doing with the characters and so on. Make the film for them, not for these stupid freaking idiots that know nothing about the game, the history, the characters, the storyline these developers have painstakingly worked through. What's your take on that, mate?
Well, I mean, part of the reason it's probably started off as R is because it's harder to make something more violent and stuff along the way, but it's easier to, like, tone it down. Like, whenever you negotiating between the people making the movie and the people who actually produce the movie out, like, publish it and stuff. Like, you don't want to start too low because it's hard to, like, get more.
That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. But then Do you reckon that's what's happened with Suicide Squad? It was quite a good film. It had a whole lot of story, and then they just quite literally took a freaking axe maul to it and split this fucking beautiful film into so much nonsense, it didn't make sense. Because it didn't make sense, face it, mate. It made no bloody sense.
Well, I think that was because Deadpool came out, and they saw how popular Deadpool was with the rated R and the comedy that was in there, and they went and they reshot more stuff trying to be like Deadpool. So that some of that stuff might have been what didn't make sense.
Look, I get that. I get that, right? I know they tried to change the film because it wasn't as R-rated as people would have liked, but still, they cut a whole lot of stuff that didn't make sense. After they cut it, it didn't make any sense. Surely they could have gone back and said, right, we need to go through this whole freaking arc again and then just redo the whole thing. Yes, it would have cost them X about freaking millions more probably in making films, but I'm pretty sure with the extra effort they would have pulled in shit tons more. Look at Deadpool. Personally, I didn't think Deadpool was a good film. I thought the jokes were very, very bad, and I didn't like the creation of how Deadpool came about. He came about in a bar. Meanwhile, he's meant to be created in a fucking swimming pool, that sort of shit, if you read the comics. But hey,
You're allowed to be wrong because the jokes in Deadpool were amazing.
The jokes in Deadpool were weak. They were weak sauce. Weak sauce. And
Compared to what?
Compared to
Mr.
Now fucking
Suicide Squad should have been amazing.
Suicide Squad should have been amazing, mate.
But it was not.
Suicide Squad should have been amazing, right? Batman vs Superman.
Fire.
Yeah, it was a fuck worse than a dumpster fire, mate. Superman versus Batman was a hot fucking pail of garbage on a fucking hot ass Georgia day, right? When there's fucking fires burning out there, right? Fucking Deadpool was better. I'm not saying it's horrible like those fucking films, but it could have been so much better. It felt cheap. It felt tacky. Yeah. I reckon they should have done more. But that's my edginess.
Deadpool, though. Deadpool is awesome in his tackiness.
No. I think we're going to disagree on this for a while, mate. The joke should have been a lot more scathing, I reckon. Not as airy-fairy and they shouldn't have minded their P's and Q's as much. They should have just fucking gone out there and made a proper fucking badass film. But they bit and held their tongues quite a lot in that film, I reckon. They could have gone further.
How much farther could you go? He was talking about pleasuring himself with his little baby hand with the blind woman right next to him.
Don't forget the unicorn, dude. Don't forget the unicorn.
He got reamed by his woman. And where did you think he had the ring at? Where do you think that ring was?
No, hang on a minute. Don't forget also, they also took the piss out the DC character that he plays, Green Lantern, in the intro sequence as well. There's a trading card, a Green Lantern trading card, right? But what irritated it for me, what irritated me was that right from the beginning film, right? All these credits and intros and bits and pieces, and it's like, yeah, okay, I get the joke, but you guys could have been a lot more harsh with that sort of thing. That's what I'm saying. It could have been a lot harsher, a lot more brutal. Let's face it, Deadpool's not a nice person, right? He could have been a lot more damning in those jokes, a lot more hard-hitting.
But I do agree, Uncharted probably should be rated R. I mean, there's a lot of killing in the Uncharted series. Like, it's not vulgar cussing and, nudity or anything like that, but there's a lot of violence. Like, Nathan Drake shoots up a lot of people. So I could see the rated R. I could definitely understand that.
It's like Rambo 3, but more guts. Yeah. Not Rambo 3 when he went to Afghan.
But yeah, talking about games, man, like the Uncharted game, another Sony studio seems like they're putting out a good one. Horizon Zero Dawn is literally right on the horizon. It's a couple days away. It's the 28th, I think it's coming out. And all the reviews seem like they're amazing.
Yes, Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever have you. I really do hope these guys have put time and effort into storytelling. What it looks like they've done is they've put a lot of effort into how the game looks, how pretty it looks. I really hope they've put time and effort into the story. And thankfully, these guys who make these sorts of games, this developer rather, does actually care about the story to a degree, but I really do hope they haven't shifted all their focus towards making it look pretty and then let the story down.
Well, I mean, all you've seen dealing with the game has been trailers and stuff, so all you're seeing is the prettiness. And Guerrilla Games are good at the stories, like Killzone, 1, 2, 3, all good stories. Shadowfall never happened. I don't remember that. I heard something about it, but it never happened to me. But the other 3 games, good stories.
Was my first game I played in the PS4. That was the launch bundle I got, was the Shadowfall bundle. I then took that back because the PS4 broke, and then got the Draft Club bundle, which came with the camera and another controller. And that was like a free upgrade type thing. And I played Shadowfall. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. It looks were fucking beautiful. Beautiful. And the story was okay. I could get behind the story. I sympathized and empathized with a lot of the characters in that thing. And if it's anything like this, I reckon it'll be a good game. Speaking about games and developers and publishers, have you noticed that in E3 2017, Microsoft, the company Microsoft, has a booth the same size as a publisher house like Ubisoft, Bethesda, Activision, Warner Brothers, and Sony have taken up the other hall almost completely. Holy shit, what's going on there, Jolly?
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, I looked, originally, like, in the years past, Microsoft has been in the same West Hall as Sony. Like, Sony's on this side, Microsoft's on this side. And all of a sudden this year, like, Sony was like, you coming back, bro? And Microsoft's like, no, I'm going to this other hall. So they moved halls, and now Nintendo is taking the space that Microsoft used to.
I can't believe you said Nintendo. You said Nintendo on this news section. Drac, I think, just had an orgasm in the corner somewhere, just by you mentioning the name Nintendo. Good God. And the thing is, Nintendo's right next to Sony. It's about half the size of Sony, and Microsoft is about a quarter of the size of the Sony booth by looking at the bits and pieces. So something's going on there. I reckon Microsoft's pulling out of E3, and they're just taking it one small step at a time.
I mean, they have a new system coming out. Scorpio. Isn't that what it's referred to as?
Yep.
Or has it got a new name? But yeah, they've got a new system coming out. They have to have some kind of conference of their own planned, I would hope.
But in such a small booth? No, I don't think they've got something like that. However, they might have their own little thing in a Hilton hotel conference room somewhere else, maybe. I think maybe that will be it.
There's a bingo hall down the street. I'm sure they're gonna launch their console in there, I guess.
There we go. You heard it here first, guys. Xbox Scorpio is being launched in a bingo hall around the corner from E3 2017. There you go.
They're more than likely going to have their own conference outside of E3 to launch the Scorpio, I would imagine. Like, that's got to be huge for them.
I would have thought they would have come out all guns blazing, because the way I'm seeing the Scorpio is that the Scorpio is going to be better than the current PS4 Pro. That's what I'm reading and what I'm seeing. And surely they want to knock Sony off their we're the biggest, best console perch. And to be honest, I kind of want to see them do it. I won't lie.
I don't think they can. Like, their games are going to PC now, so it doesn't matter.
So you reckon that Microsoft's going full retard and taking on the PC market?
They blue screened.
You reckon they're blue screened? They've gone red ring of death and blue screened themselves into oblivion.
That's what it seems. I mean, like, they're putting so much time and effort into making a better Xbox that's going to be so much stronger than the PS4. But, like, if you're going to play this stuff, like, on a better system, they're putting their games on PC now. Why would people not just put it on their PC and play it over there?
Yeah, well, that's a debate I think every single gamer has to have with themselves. You know, once you've grown out to the PS4 phase or the Xbox phase, the next logical step is a proper full-on PC gaming rig. Alright, Jolly, that's E3 out the way. Cool, done and dusted. Yes, let's see if that question and that battle will rage on with the PC Master Races. Right. Guys, just before we end the news section, the folks we're about to interview, they launched the game last week and it hit #1 in the hot free play games on the Touch Arcade. Now, that is quite an achievement in of itself, right? Guys, this interview was a very, very good one. Sit back and enjoy. That concludes the news we have for this week, gentlemen and ladies. Jolly, anything you want to say?
It was nice talking to you guys again. I'm hoping they welcome me back another week, maybe not in a few months. Catch you guys later.
Right, guys, enjoy the interview.
Welcome back, guys. Trivia time. The first publishing offer that Chief Puzzle Officer got was for a adult side, to turn the game into an adult-oriented theme. Well, we did not really think we needed to do that, so Chief Puzzle Officer is still maintaining its classy, sexy course.
And it's interview time again. Yeah, we are back with an interview we skipped last week because somebody got lazy. Anyways, as usual, here's G, and with me across the pond is the Bamm Havoc.
Good evening, folks. Good morning, folks. Good afternoon, folks. Bamm Havoc here at your service. Today, guys, we have Andy. with us, Andy, say hi.
Hey, folks.
Okay, that was a big say hi. Let's just go through. That would be Andy Wang. I hope I say that correctly. From Duofun Studios.
That's right. You got that right. Wing or Wong, both works with me.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce it once we get outside of Northern Europe. Anyway, so you're joining us all the way from Seattle, and if I understand correctly, you're the head of a company who suddenly decided to make an indie game. Apparently, just reading my notes here, you got tired of making real games?
No, actually, I came from outside the industry. So, just a little bit about myself, guys. I'm what you would call a gaming fanatic, but I've never worked in a role that has anything to do with games. I work in traditional tech. And sometime in the middle of 2015, I decided to just violate all the rules about, doing indie gaming on the side as a hobby, and just decided to quit my job and jump in head first to start my own indie studio. Now, I definitely have partners with me that have made a lot of other games, and they come from, varying degrees of AAA or indie background. But I myself, this is my first title, and to jump in to make a game.
G, he cut me off at the knees, G. Why, G? Why?
I don't know, but hey, it's
He's
nice
not answering my questions for me. G, why?
It's easier that way. We have to talk less. We just make them talk more.
Right. Andy, I'll ask the question. My good man. I was going to say, please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, sort of thing. But you've already covered that.
Well, we could also talk about how I'm first and foremost a father and a husband, and then after that, I'm a gamer. And like I said, a pretty fanatical one. One example, I used to ship my desktop with me when I go on business travel so that I won't gimp on a raid in an MMORPG. I got really good at fixing desktops because no matter how much protection you ship a tower with, it breaks, when it comes down from airplane luggage. So that's kind of the dedication I had to gaming. So transitioning to indie game development really wasn't all that crazy to me as it might have first sounded to other people.
Fair play. You get a relatively good measure of the man. He's a fanatical gamer. And now he's making indie games. Awesome. Brilliant.
Okay, so I guess the next question should be, okay, explain this Chief Puzzle Officer game to us that you're about to launch, just have launched. Yeah, I guess when we get to the 27th, it will have launched.
Yeah, Chief Puzzle Officer is in soft launch on Android right now. And by the time we get to, as you say, G, as the time we get to the 27th when this airs, it would have fully launched on both iOS and Android. Now, Chief Puzzle itself is what we call a puzzle RPG. Some people will call it a match 3 RPG. There's a lot of these puzzle type of games out there, but when my team was taking a look at what can we do a little different, a little innovative when it comes to making games, we thought about let's make a multiplayer real-time version of a match 3 RPG. Most of these experiences are single players or just asynchronous offline multiplayer type of mode. So we said let's shake up the formula a little bit. Let's do a real-time puzzle RPG focusing on collaboration between players.
So you're saying it's basically one of those, match 3 games, as you say, with an RPG element, and then I have to play with other people in real time?
You don't have to play with other people in real time because you can always use NPC AI as your party members. But you can go in and do 4 players co-op together. And when you do guild wars against another guild, it's a 3 versus 3 format. And I like to think a human should, in theory, perform better than an AI partner in head-to-head guild versus guild.
Okay, well that's interesting because I always see my wife play these Connect 4, Connect 5 things. Perhaps get her to play something a little bit more challenging.
It's definitely more in depth, and that's what we go for because we define ourselves as what's called a mid-core studio. So we don't make casual games. At the same time, we don't make hardcore games because we don't think that's suitable as a medium on mobile. So we do something in the cross in the middle. So gameplay is very simple, as most match 3s are. You swap 2 different tiles to make a match. But what we do is we let the special items that you bring, you construct a deck out of cards you collect, and you level them up. So if you really like special abilities that, for example, manipulate the board, that's what you'll bring and you'll level up through your progression so that you'll have an edge in battle because you can convert 9 tiles into green as opposed to 7, and maybe they carry a damage bonus.
Okay, well that's kind of, a little bit more than the really, run-of-the-mill games that we see coming out of, particularly for some reason, Chinese studios. They're just spitting them out. All they're changing is a little bit of graphics, and here, Connect 3.
Gee, that's a really good point. That's one of the reasons why we went indie. We come from the AAA background. We've obviously been approached by a number of publishers about if we wanted to make a game that was more safer more mainstream, more skinning on the formula and maybe adding one or two things. But ultimately, that wasn't what we wanted to do. We have already defined that any game we make will be. We can't promise we ever make the best game ever, but we can promise that it'll be different.
Happy days. Right, well, Andy, a lot of people that might watch this podcast or this thing might not know what a match 3 type game is, alright? So I'm going to break it down simple terms for simpletons like myself, and please tell me if I'm wrong. This is essentially Bejeweled with a fighty type concept in it. Am I wrong by saying that?
I would say you're right. Bejeweled is the classic swap mechanism of match 3s, so you're absolutely right.
All right. So to be honest, when I loaded this up, I got like a real anime sort of feel. Now, when I was a younger lad, I used to watch my animes quite a lot because they were a lot better than some of the cartoons being splurged out from some other studios. So I went to the old anime sort of stuff, a lot better, a lot more realistic, like jazz, right? And I got that sort of anime sort of vibe with it. The artwork in this game is spectacular. It is gorgeous, and the music accompanies it quite well. How did you manage to get? How did you tie in that sort of twist with the Bejeweled sort of concept? I'm going to keep calling it the Bejeweled concept, but we'll just go puzzling concept. How did you? It's interesting. It's a very, very interesting type of concept. I haven't come across this before. Wow. Yeah. Very, very nice artwork.
Thank you. I think one of the things that made us happiest is when a fan talked about the artwork. They said that we managed to do a Japanese cartoon or anime style without overdoing it, and the compliments we got was that it was sexy, classy, as opposed to some of the other type of anime art in mobile games especially that tends to overdo it. So we were particularly happy with that decision. One of the reasons that influenced using this type of art and this type of music to go along with the game was definitely just user feedback. We ran a lot of playtesting sessions around the world with our prototypes, and it was very clear that any kind of let's call it Western art. So Western art that wasn't cartoony didn't have really good worldwide appeal, and whereas especially in the domains of RPGs, anime-esque art had a lot wider worldwide appeal. And so we thought if we were going to make an RPG mixed together with the Bejeweled formula, it better be this flavor of game, for the right correct feel.
To be fair, I think using that thing, it doesn't do your game any justice, because Bejeweled, you're just swiping across and getting the biggest lines, but with this game, you've actually got to do it because of your team, and you got to get through a story, and you've got to do things, and it's interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, that's where the RPG component comes from. The progression, the getting through a story campaign, leveling up your cards, both your active abilities as well as the items that you play on the board, and then the mix and matching of, what items you want. One thing we really liked, guys, during our beta was that, as you said, in Bejeweled and Candy Crush, in any of these games, it's very easy to figure out the optimal move. I mean, you stare hard enough at it, you figure out something that's going to give you the biggest combo. But in our game, it's not so simple. You have to first think about, is it best to activate one of my special items already on the board? Or if you look at the ones that has a little skull on it, the other team has their items on the board too. Do I go and destroy that so they don't get the benefit? Or do I simply find the biggest match so that I accumulate the most mana? Or maybe I built my deck mono red, so all I'm looking for is red tiles so that I do the most match damage when I match them. There wasn't a clear consensus in beta, and we like that.
I must say, I haven't come across this type of game before. And don't get me wrong, I have played Bejeweled. My wife plays Bejeweled quite a lot. And I'm actually going to get her to play this game because I think she'll enjoy it a lot more, because Bejeweled's just a kind of, splash and dash sort of game. This, you actually have to play it and play it properly, progress further. And yes, some of the stuff is quite basic, but if you play longer, it gets more complicated. Yeah, I like it. And you're right when you say the artwork. It's not sleazy anime. It's actually quite nice. It fits the game quite well, I think. Yes.
Thank you. Love it. Got another fan.
Oh, I'm definitely with you, Bamm. I think I don't have a phone that runs this type of game. I'll be honest right away. I don't have the Android, iPhone thingies, Microsoft phone thingies. I keep things simple. I think I'm gonna throw a link of this to my wife just to say, you know what, try this, see if it's any good.
Yeah, gee, the Nokia 3310 died in the, mid to late 90s, okay? Move on, come to the real world, get an Android. Come to the dark side, young Padawan.
Oh no, they are still living, mate. I'm sorry to tell you. You can still get batteries for them and they still work. I'm good.
The 3310, 6410 are shit phones. Done. Get over it. Get yourself a modern phone. Get this game. Play it, dude. All right? Because this is actually worth playing. And I don't like saying about Android phones, okay? Or Android games, rather. Because the Android games I play are quite basic and rudimentary, to pass time while I'm taking a dump on, on the shitter. But this is the kind of game that I won't be playing on the shitter. I'll be playing it on trains and cars and buses and when I've got time off work. And actually, I might go have another game after I do this podcast instead of playing some Dark Souls. That's how interesting this game is. And I like Bejeweled for its very simple, very basic sort of, Tetris-y sub-top line thing, whatever have you. But this implements that along with the story, along with, it's good. It's good, G. Get this game, play it, mate.
And now Andy knows why we call the podcast Rated R.
What? I'm loving it, guys. I'm loving it. And I'm loving it that the simplicity of ease of getting into it is capturing Bamm's interest, because how we've designed the game is as you progress through it, you start getting into the more complex elements, not only more active abilities inside the battle, but things you can do outside the battle. So not just going in the story mode, but you can run in limited time events, which are hard. They're designed, you can notice that in our game, we don't have an energy system like most games out there, most mobile games out there, which tries to cap your play unless you either spend more or wait longer. There is no such thing as any kind of timers in Chief Puzzle Officer. Our philosophy is that if you get good at the game, your reward shouldn't be to play it less. And the flip side, to not turn that into like a grind fest of some kind, is we make sure that the things that are going to drop really good reward are limited time events. They're not easy. You have to really work together with your teammates and, put in a fair amount of thought into how you construct your deck and where you put your resources to level them up to stand a good chance to consistently clear the higher difficulty.
Okay, Andy, then allow me to ask, there is an RPG, there is a story. Now, Chief Puzzle Officer tells me it's corporate inspired, and as do everything I read about the game. Can you shed a little bit of light on what is the actual story?
The actual story follows our hero, which is you, in your trials and tribulations in this fantasy, alternate reality, modern world where it's just like our world, except disputes are solved with a puzzle fight, and the results are binding. So if two corporates have a dispute, then they play a puzzle match against each other, and the winner gets that other side's, whether it's assets or personnel or whatever's at dispute. Now, thematically, that's just the theme. In the game, you don't actually take over the other guild's players, as an example, but you win cards and you win resources, and that's really so Chief Puzzle Officer follows our heroes starting from his graduation from the academy, equivalent of a school, and going out in the real world, starting with his first coffee shop as he starts climbing up the ranks in the entertainment industry, in the tech industry, and building his empire. In this world, the highest rank is not the Chief Executive Officer, but it is the Chief Puzzle Officer, since you have to settle disputes and with puzzles, and that's the rank that you, the hero, are trying to achieve. The story follows a little bit inspiration from our trials and tribulations as an indie studio of how we tried to start, how we try to fundraise, how we try to get on our feet. So there's a little bit of that mixed in there in a lighthearted tone.
Okay, I think you might be onto something. So next time Samsung and Apple are suing each other, instead of heading off to the Texas East District courts, they play a puzzle game.
Wouldn't the world be a much funner and nicer place and not waste as much money on disputes if you simply just do a battle of wits and then winner takes it all?
Yeah, but that's very un-American of you.
We're an international game, G. International game.
Yeah.
He caught you by the short and curlies here, mate. Right. Before I die of laughter, right? I want to know a little bit more about your background, please, there, Andy, Mr. Wang, there, dude. I'm reading here, 2016 Mobile Game Forum Avenger finalist. Please tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when we started the studio, as part of our fundraising as well as awareness efforts, we started looking into where are there more gaming events that we can go in and meet publishers and meet investors. The top mobile game conference is the Mobile Gaming Forum. Makes its rounds worldwide, cycles between London, usually Seattle in America, as well as somewhere in Asia, cycles between those three locations. We reached out, pitched the vision that we had, and they invited us to and selected us as a finalist to come in their Mobile Gaming Forum Venture Den pitch. So we went there, had a good time. The feedback that we got from there caused the biggest pivot we ever had in our game, to reduce some complexity. And overall, came out great of it. Especially for someone like me that came from outside the industry, having a chance to go in there and sit through, let's say, Rovio's Angry Birds 2 session, going to sit through, Nixon Mobile's, monetization strategy, sitting through and hearing Electronic Arts' IP strategy with Star Wars. It was really, really eye-opening to go in there and absorb those kind of knowledge to bring back to what we want to do at Duofun.
You been to any other convention?
Are you talking about from a game perspective?
I'm talking about from any perspective. Gaming perspective, publisher perspective, those sorts of things. Where have you been, talking about this game? What groundwork have you laid for people to actually know about this game and then buy it when it launches?
So that's a great question. I mean, discovery is the biggest hurdle in mobile games these days. It's not enough to build a good game. Before starting or while starting Duofun Studio, I actually live in downtown San Francisco, so just 2 blocks away from where the Game Developer Conference is held. So GDC, upcoming again next week, that's really where at the grassroots level, we went around, pitched our vision, obtained the advisors that we had for our studio, and actually recruited some of our team members and got the word out there. Ever since then, because we're a mobile game and the largest mobile game forum is at Touch Arcade, we've camped out at the Touch Arcade forums. At this point, we've gotten half of our beta testers from the Touch Arcade community. Just like the reaction you had, Bam. I think the Touch Arcade community, they sing everything. So when they see something that they thought was different, innovative, and especially an indie effort, they got really behind it. We've had 3 articles written about us from Touch Arcade. We've had different articles written about us on different mid-core RPG review sites. And those are all things that are drumming up support for us when we go into our launch next week. But really these days in mid-core, guys, you can't get away with banking on just organic traffic or press coverage. We've allotted quite a bit of funds, at least relative to our size and scope, to be able to run ads when the game launches to do it justice, because if you don't do that, you're gambling at that point. So we made sure that when we budgeted for the game, yes, the majority of funds went into building the game, but not doing Facebook marketing or Reddit marketing. That's not doing the game really good justice.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed with some indie developers we've spoken to. They haven't really necessarily done as much groundwork as they could because they're so busy trying to make the game as awesome as it could be, and by the time the game's developed and launched and built, nobody knows about it or people have forgotten about it. So I'm just curious to find out if you actually have done this hard groundwork, because there are companies out there or development studios out there that have done the groundwork and their game has skyrocketed through the freaking roof because people see an original idea, they like the concept, it's easy to get into, and they enjoy the game. And I'm just hoping you guys have done enough legwork for this, because honestly, I'm not gonna lie here, I didn't know about Chief Puzzle Officer until G sent me a link with you guys, and I've got the game, played it, and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is interesting. It's not just a simple, splash and dash, you're done 5-minute game. You can sit down and you can lose concept of time and reality, okay? And it's fascinating how long this game can actually absorb your attention for. So I think you've got a very, very good little game here.
I appreciate the kind words. And as a small studio, that is our biggest risk, where there's just so many things we want to do. We're not just talking about the marketing side. I mean, that's very important, as you pointed out. The game side too, right? With a small team, there's only so many bodies to go around on every single function. So it is definitely, when we look at risk areas, one of the biggest flags. But we're certainly hoping the strength of the game, as you pointed out, there's a lot of content, a lot more content than typically would a game would do. A common thing for games these days, because they're games as a service, is to continuously push out more content as you go through time. A good example is Nintendo's Fire Emblem Heroes that came out 2 weeks ago. Super strong start, very successful game, but right now starting to get people asking, what's that end game? Like, what justifies spending time in there that's worth investment in time? Our philosophy, guys, is we started out first and foremost thinking these days it's not a battle for the wallet. We can get into that whole philosophy about how we actually don't like how games are, big spender based these days, and we designed a game around a whole different philosophy. Could be our biggest downfall, but we'll see. But but more importantly than trying to get someone's money, we think, is the game worth someone's time? And we wanted to make sure when we release that right away the player can tell this is not going to be a 3 days and done type of game, and this is something that they can grow into a community. Use the chat feature inside the game to make some friends and play together, so that this can become a part of their life. And if people did that, regardless of how much money we make, we would consider the game a success, that we have become part of the entertainment of somebody's life.
To be fair, mate, let me just reiterate what I find interesting about the game is the fact that you've got a cooperative play, okay, and you've got 3v3 battles, and you can do PvE with your friends and stuff. I mean, shit, I don't think, mate, mind blow. It's good, right? It's good. You guys have got a good game. So I was just worried you guys hadn't actually done a lot of legwork. And, coming onto our little shitty podcast doesn't necessarily mean you've done enough legwork. We're a small little podcast who like playing alternative games. It's original idea, original concept. You said you've done a lot of groundwork, and I just hope you guys have. I wish you all the success. Really, I do. It's a good little game. It's a good little game. So Andy, dude, please tell me, the people you work with, who are they?
So at this point, we have 11 full-time staff, 5 part-time, and we have some art contractors. You see, talking about the art in the game, you see there's a lot of different characters. And with one of the things about doing a collectible card game is you have the ability to try different styles and different artists within things that conform to the overall art direction of the game. So we have a lot of different artists around the world that takes a stab at doing 1 or 2 characters, and if it fits well, then we continue to add more art. Now, the core of the team, though, is anchored by two different industry veterans. So we have Chris Oakes, who leads our game development side. He's a super veteran when it comes to gaming, even well before the days of mobile. So if you remember things like Facebook apps and games like that, Chris was the server team lead for Marvel Avenger Alliance, which had a good, really, really good 7-year run. 2 years on top of Facebook #1, multiple years of top 10 in mobile. So Chris guides the entire development team. The rest of the development team is, for the most part, guys with a lot less experience than Chris, but equally the passion and obviously super talented on our team to make this game. And Chris helps them, as we say, level up. And on the art side, it's very similar for us. We have Irina Mandel, who, if you ever play World of Warcraft, you've played her user interface before. She likes to talk a lot about the crafting. The good parts of the crafting was her, and she's best remembered for the glyphs in World of Warcraft. That was by her as well. So she leads our art team and also helped that the look and feel, the user experience you see in Chief Puzzle Officer, that's completely led by Irina. I handle the game design, the production, and the business side, and then the rest of the team fills out all the other necessary functions.
Well, let me tell you right now, Mr. Andy, give Irina a fucking pay raise, right? Because of their art style and the way the game feels and plays, it caught me, right? Well done.
I love that. I will tell her. Bamm said, because of the way that the art was done, it caught his attention, and I kind of forgot that first part you said. It kind of just escaped me.
Fair enough.
No, she's super talented. And the one thing about Duofun is that we're employee owned. We, for the most part, self-raised our money, and all the guys who's been around here for longer than 2 months have an equity stake in there. I come from the tech background. We feel that if you take not to go too big of a tangent, but when you take a step back and look at gaming, you hear a lot of stories about exploitive game studios, long hours, low pay, cut staff after a game ships, and we started Duofun with the vision that we were not going to do that. I mean, as an experienced manager, I understand the value of continuity and human capital, so I never really understood why, staff got shed afterwards instead of being put used to a good, next title. But then on the earlier part that we spoke to, I always felt like, one thing, guys, I always like to say is, of course I like to do well. I want to provide for my family, right? But I don't need to be what I call 4 yachts rich, one's enough. In all seriousness, what the vision I have for the studio is one in which each employee can consider the company also theirs, all in having a stake in the company, so that if it really does well, they feel like it's part of their own success too. And that's the formula that we have at Duofun, which causes a very small, happy, cohesive team and really working together, even through tough things like launch bugs and pivots in the game. Everybody just trucks through because this is their little company too.
Roger that, Rubber Ducky. Roger that. Now, what I meant by pay raise, mate, was actually give him more bacon, because bacon is essentially a currency. It's not only a fruit, a vegetable, and a nut, but it can also be used as currency. Clearly there's a loss in translation across the pond here somewhere, but you get what I'm getting at.
Oh, giving her bacon. I mean, that will be done. Mark my words on it. And when it comes to bacon, I love bacon. I mean, I got to make sure that my wife doesn't hear this podcast or I might get in some degree of trouble. But I already said it anyway. I love bacon. But I'm going to take a twist on you, Bam. I'm going to give a little... This might be blasphemy to us bacon lovers, but 2 years ago, I was at a county fair in Texas and had the opportunity to try fried bacon. In my mind, how can that go wrong? You have bacon, you have it fried with more bacon, and it becomes crispy bacon with bacon. I didn't like it, G. I didn't like it, Bam. I didn't like it, G. It was out of my expectations, and for a long time, it made me question, am I really a bacon fanatic? But then I cook up some more bacon in the morning and, have that and realize what I love, and just think maybe that county fair just didn't make very good fried bacon.
You see, that could very well be the case. You had an unskilled bacon cooker, chef dude, right? Cooking something that's very difficult to fuck up, and somehow he managed to fuck it up. So, don't worry. You're in safe hands here, mate. You're in safe hands here. Bacon and beer, all the roost.
Can I just take a stab? Could it have been turkey bacon, non-bacon bacon? Or could it have been one of those cooks, one of those chefs, who think he's so good that he has to make a new way of making bacon, that he messed up bacon?
Well, not real sure what that guy would be doing at a county fair, but maybe that explains why he's at a county fair. So I think you're onto something, G. Let me revive my love and try fried bacon next time I see it at another county fair.
Yeah, or just, bacon. Just keep it simple.
Okay, all right, enough bacon talk. I hate to break up the bacon talk because this will go off-piste and stay off-piste if we don't get back on track, because we're actually here, believe it or not, to talk to Andy about his game and not about bacon, sadly. Sadly, G, sadly. Right. Andy, you touched on a couple of topics that I just want to actually ask because they're in my notes and I want to ask these questions. You're an indie developer, you raised your own money, you don't have a publisher pushing release dates, pushing times, pushing schedules. How did you manage to get around that?
Well, we haven't quite gotten around it yet, in the sense that we're not in a sustainable position. But one of the things that we're able to do is, if you think about the logic that it's well known these days that indie studios typically fail. First-timer studios especially don't make it to release. So we were able to somewhat use that to our advantage when we put together a team, put together a prototype, and then we went out there and we were able to show that to some angel investors. We're not completely self-funded. We did take money from the private investors, so not institutional, and that definitely helped us get enough money that we know we'll go through launch and be able to continue on, regardless of how the game does. We're obviously hoping for the game to do well, but we didn't meet the typical indie studio constraint of if this game doesn't come out by November, we were going to be bankrupt. I think that comes just the background of the guys who lead the team aren't 2 years out of college. We're guys who've been around the business, been around business in general, and knew how to set up so that we weren't always banking on the best case scenario, if that makes sense. So we take a very conservative, realistic path into how we're going to go to market.
That's good. You walked in there knowing that you could essentially fail, so you did everything in your power to prevent it, and you've managed to succeed. Now, don't get me wrong here, I don't begrudge microtransactions, and this game does have microtransactions. Don't get me wrong, developers have to eat bacon, because bacon makes developers develop more better. So, what is the implementation of your microtransactions? How abrasive is that transaction? Because as far as I can see, it's not really as abrasive as it seems. It seems you can play the game without ever having to use it, or ever having to buy things to get more better at the game. This is a new concept to me, because normally, as you said before, earlier on, when you touched upon it, before I got to ask the question, the gaming experience isn't centered around the microtransaction. The microtransaction itself is a separate entity altogether from what it seems. and what I've played of the game, which is, again, different. And I'm still flabbergasted by this concept.
And I'm glad you pointed that out. I think that's a defining difference in our approach, and it's ultimately what caused us to not sign up a deal with, let's just call it tier 1 RPG publishers, because they wanted us to follow a more traditional monetizing path. You know, I think we had a lot of good thumbs up for idea about the game, execution of the game, the multiplayer element, and where we didn't see eye to eye with the typical mainstream publishers was in how we would handle monetization. We decided to base our game around the free player or the light spender as the group of people under the correct set of circumstances should be competitive. Now, I use that word very carefully, word choice very carefully, that it's the correct circumstances, because in our game you have to have a certain amount of skill. You have to put a certain amount of effort in there. If you don't, and you play for free, and you still expect to compete at the top ends of, say, Guild Wars or event rankings, that's just, I mean, to us, that's not fair. That's a different form of not fair. And so we like to say that if you put in the time, put in the effort, put in the skill, and you're not the unluckiest guy in the world, and you find a good guild, in our game, you can get cards for your deck from your guild 100% with accuracy. You can say, I want to buy this 5-star blue card for all of my guild members to use using in-game currency that you earn. But if you don't do any of that, then you're not going to be competitive. That's not the kind of player we base it around. We base it around as guys who, treat this game as something that they're going to play on a daily basis.
See, now this is the bit that I liked about it, the bit that caught me, not necessarily about the gameplay, was the fact that it's not pay to win, and it's not pay to frickin' play, and it's not pay to wait. It's just a game you can go and play, and if you want to spend money, that's an option. It's not a case of the game is centered around the pay option. Nice. It's refreshing to see a game like this, and I was very happy to see it like that. Very happy to see.
Bamm, let me give you one concrete example that echoes the point that you said. So in our game, there is what we call a mega tower building aspect. So what that means is each guild, they have their own office tower. You're a corporation, and you can go in there and build different things, build furnitures that give your entire guild buffs. If you upgrade your rug, then you get more hit points as a whole. If you level up your plant and your vending machine, then you have more dark damage and things like that, right? So one publisher in particular, can't name it because of NDAs, looked at that and said, perfect for slapping a timer on it, make people want to spend some currency to speed it up, to tie that into your core loop, so that it becomes an important mechanism, a substantial amount of the stats that someone has in the game, so they have to level it up. And yet, we understand that. I don't doubt that it worked, but, our game designer, my brother Don, he just fundamentally disagreed with that. He said we shouldn't double charge people on time. Earning the guild currency, earning the guild funds to be able to afford buying that piece and upgrading that piece of furniture was already time spent. So it didn't feel right from a gamer's perspective, and that's who we ultimately are, to double slap a timer on it just for the sake of bottlenecking progress. And you can see that philosophy consistently throughout our game everywhere, that there's never an instance of double charging for time if you've already earned something.
Right, if Don was here, I'd give him a big fat wet fucking kiss right now. Don, you're a legend, Don. Well done. Because I've been crying for indie games, and particularly mobile games, to do this, because I get frustrated to the back teeth with having to wait and having to pay and having this and having... Can't I just play the fucking game? And this is one of those games. Granted, it's not necessarily my style of game, but to be brutally honest, because of certain aspects in the storyline, okay, the story I think is a little bit on the weak side, but I'm sure with a bit more development and a bit more storyboarding, it will be much better. But that's probably what keeps me coming back to the game, is that you guys aren't after every single freaking nickel and dime I've got. And the storyline fits quite well, and the game is, again, very easy to play. It's easy to play, hard to master, which I think is perfect. Yeah. Well done, Don! I love you!
Thank you, guys. But I would say, as you said earlier, developers have to buy bacon too, right? So the objective is not to build the greatest game that nobody has to ever spend in the game, we think about if we were a gamer, what would be an acceptable trade-off? So a good example is leveling cards. When you have a game that has tough content cooperatively and head-to-head PvP, people want to edge and people want to level up, and this is really where the pay-to-win aspects usually come the strongest. So we designed the game for the most part that as you go through your task, which is our achievement system that we give you, goodies for doing certain things, like how many times you use the group finder to find a party, how far you progress in the story, you get enough to level up, 1.5 decks worth of cards. But if you're the type that loves to acquire more cards and every card's got to be maxed out, you like to try a lot of different combinations, and you're not willing to put in the time, remember there's no energy, so you can always go grind more gold, but if you're not willing to put in that time and you want a shortcut, that's where we feel is an acceptable trade-off for people who want to spend. But even then, because the only thing that we have are card levels, player levels, and a couple secondary mechanisms, there's no infinite treadmill here when it comes to power progression. And that's really where, at the end of the day, that's the philosophy that governs anything. The simple English way to say this is we effectively cap the max spend a player can have in the game. Because the only way to achieve what I said earlier, which is designing the light spender and the free player as a baseline, is to make sure we cap that spend, right? Because if a guy can spend $10,000 to max out, what does that do to the guy who spent $20? That $20 may as well not exist, for the player. And we wanted to make sure that if a player spent $20, $30 or something with us, that was something that they would see the value in. And the only way to do that was to make sure the maximum cap was, that there is an effective cap to spending.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, Andy. It's refreshing to see that you guys are being, I want to say, responsible with the way you're doing it. And I do appreciate and understand fully that there are people and livelihoods tied to various aspects of this game. I really appreciate that. And I do understand that if I spend $5, it will be going to purchasing more bacon and more beer for everybody. I get that. And I'm willing to accept and pay for games. I really am. But you guys haven't gone about it safe, like, for example, there's a Jurassic Park game or whatever have you. You've got to pay almost every damn thing. And I used to like that game, but then I realized I've got to wait 3 years before anything ever happens. So, yes, I think you guys have gone about it the right way. Yes.
Can I jump in? Because I'm listening to you two talk about this, the whole, how to finance it. And I might have an idea how to really get some money out of Bamm on this game.
I'm listening.
You need to find a way to make the game pay to bacon. Think of it as in-game, you could have some kind of boost, some kind of, you get a bonus to the next match, a temporary boost. And it is that you buy the company and everybody in it more bacon. So real-life money turns into bacon, turns into a tiny boost, but temporary one. As long as it's bacon and you no longer have to match, diamonds and stars, but different kinds of bacons.
I love the idea, G. That's dangerous territory you're going in. Consumables to be bought and used to give an advantage. That is something that the typical mobile gamer would view as definitively pay to win, and it's something that we shy away from, in the design of our game. Now, what we should do is we should offer a way to give bacon gifts. Pure cosmetic. Your character shows up with some bacon sprinkled around, with their cards when they go in, so they feel good and they feel that they're spreading the love of bacon. That that's component of your idea. Instead of matching items, they match bacon. I think that can be really good. But we would be very careful to have it, have some kind of a power input, because then a guy can spend a lot of money and just constantly have that boost.
Oh, definitely. I was kind of pondering if you could do a way where you literally just baconate the opponent, and now suddenly their screen gets a little bit greasy.
Oh, so it's kind of like a different form of blind effect, except now this is called the bacon. A lot of guys. One thing I'll offer out there is that a lot of our games, as you play it more, you'll realize that we have a set of cards called Chief Blah Officers. So these are the active abilities that people use. We have the Chief Music Officer, Chief Shopping Officer. Some of these are real professions, and some are obviously make-believe. Like we have a Chief Yummy Officer. I'm going to talk to our art team and see if you guys want to help us design a Chief Bacon Officer. And the ability would be, something to do with bacon. And if that's something that you guys find interesting, we'll design together, and we'll call the character Bamm, Bamster or something, Chief Bacon Officer, or Bamm G. It's something that we can definitely explore.
Bamm, did we just bacon another game?
Andy, just to give you a bit of history about our little podcast, right? We might have we gave bacon to a development studio, and they're developing a bacon cart just for us. I'm flabbergasted, really. I didn't think. Okay. I'm caught off guard. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Really, you've made me speechless, G.
That's always good. That is always good.
So they're to keep it real, guys. We always need new ideas for cards anyway. So so this is just another. It's an easier way for us to not have to go through a 2-week concept artist cycle.
Oh, fair enough. And anything we can do to get bacon in it, or just to help, by all means. I guess we should also mention you do have a forum. There's all sorts of ways of giving feedback. So people who either try during the soft launch or after the actual launch have ways of giving feedback still.
Yes, the primary way we interact with our users right now is on our Discord server. So you can find the information of that Discord server on where Google and Apple shows the support link. And that's where our community manager patrols and the players help each other out and answer questions. We also have a forum, as you said, G, that will turn live when the game goes live. And that'll be something where we can post strategy guides. Discord is great for chatting, but, there's not persistence, at least not a lot of it. So a lot of things that we think will be helpful for, beginners, guild recruitment and things like that, we're going to take that over to the forum, in a more, old-fashioned type of deal for players to communicate outside the game as well.
Awesome. I think that's something people are going to enjoy, particularly when they have to look for, not have to, but can look for other people to join up with and make guilds. It's nice to have a forum and some place to actually interact with other players.
Absolutely. I mean, even now, the in-game global channel, typically, at least at nights, the North American nights, will have different guilds trying to fill up their rosters. I mean, the way we designed the game is that guilds always want to have more warm bodies, because each person, as they go through and play, doesn't matter if it's what PvE content or PvP content, they'll earn what we call guild funds for the guild and earn salary for themselves, which is an alternative currency that you don't normally see in gold. Think of it as participation. So the funds is what fuels the guild to be able to buy those furniture and purchase guild cards for everybody. And as long as your team, works hard enough together, plays enough, you can buy a lot of things, you can buy a lot of those goodies. And then you yourself, the player, you're contributing to that cause, and you can buy some, and the guild pays you a salary, so you can go buy some cool things like extra summon tickets or extra XP potions and things like that. So that's so we hope we created an environment in which guilds will be, especially higher end guilds, will be very welcoming to the new player coming in, because there's really no downside to picking up another body.
Well, that's always good. I like that there's a social aspect to the game, and it isn't just getting people in to have warm bodies, but they actually have to recruit them, and they have to kind of take care of them a bit as well.
If you think about our background, we mostly came from PC MMOs, maybe 5 to 10 years ago. And one thing that we always cherish about PC MMOs is the community aspect of it. Joining a guild, raiding together, partying up, talking to other people and interacting. And when we look at now mobile as the market we want to focus on, we focus on mobile because we think that all the ingredients for a successful replication of this community aspect is there in mobile. I mean, you're playing on a phone. A phone, by definition, is for communication. So the people that uses a phone to do their gaming already is warm to the aspect of communication and collaboration. What's missing in the marketplace is games that allows them to do something with that communication and collaboration. So the mobile gaming industry has been slow and steadily maturing towards that, and we want to take another step in that frontier, which is why we created all this cooperative play and guild-based P. And we hope to introduce in future updates more game modes that will continue to play up that, rating mechanisms for your guild to do together, and other type of things that makes it not simply just having a outer package layer of having a guild, but more importantly also having substantial substance and content why you want to do something.
Okay, no, that makes sense. That does make sense, definitely.
All right, Andy. Right, enough about the intricacies of you, your team, your game, the aspects, the theologicals behind it, all that jazz. Please, dude, can you tell me and everybody else listening to this where I can find the game, how much it's going to cost, and when is it going to be released?
You can find the game on Google Play and Apple App Store, and just search Chief Puzzle Officer. It will be the first link that comes up, at least it is for Google Play, and it's free to download. There's in-app purchase in the game, but as we discussed that, I do not believe it'll get in the way whatsoever of enjoying a game and giving it a spin. And by the time this podcast airs, February 27th, our launch date is February 22nd, so the game will be live on both platforms.
Awesome. Now, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to get G, who's my slave, my gimp, and I'm going to get him to stick a whole lot of links in the description below, guys. So if you guys want to go and try this game out and actually see what I'm talking about and how interesting the actual gameplay is, please, in the description, link straight to your Google Play, your iOS Play, whatever you want to play it in. Go and play the game, experience it. If you don't want to spend money, don't spend money. It's not their philosophy of taking every nickel and dime you got in your wallet. Play the game, see what I'm talking about, because it's a lot of fun. It really is, guys. It really is. Andy, just another one. Is there anything else you want to say that we've perhaps maybe missed about you, your team, or your game?
You guys covered all the bases. So one thing I will say is the community support has just been overwhelming. It includes, based on like things you guys said in this podcast, things that our users gave during beta feedback, during alpha feedback. We never envisioned we would have this kind of reception coming, especially as first-time indie studios without a big IP or star-studded spiritual successor to another game. It's just something that we've been overwhelmed with, and really that's what fuels us to do this. We don't, the way that our studio is set up is that we don't need to be that top 10 grossing title to be fully sustainable going forward. What fuels us is this kind of feedback that we get from gamers like yourself. And I just want to say that really makes me feel like the decision to go with switching from traditional tech into indie gaming 100% validates the decision. And we're just really happy to be able to put out a game that we feel can, share some time with people on their commutes and on their evenings.
You see, now that's probably what I'm going to be doing, because I've got to get a train to work that takes about an hour and a half if I'm not driving. And sometimes it's better to drive than it is to train, but sometimes better to train than it is to drive because the traffic is just horrible. And I've got an hour and a half to blow, and I think this will be taking up most of my time.
Okay, Andy, we're coming up on the end of this thing, and I guess by this point it's no longer a surprise. We've already touched a little bit on it, but I do have to ask because otherwise Bam gets grumpy. So, what is your favorite bacon? How do you want that bacon? And what kind of beer or other beverage would you like with your bacon?
Oh, that's a good question. My favorite bacon I ever had, there was a steakhouse in New York I went, can't remember the name, one of those places that takes cash only, old school. They had a 6-inch bacon appetizer strip for $7, just pretty expensive. But the piece of bacon was so juicy, so thick, I remember it for the rest of my life, and that is my... Now on the flip side, for beer, this has gotten me in trouble a lot of times. But I like to tell the bartender, surprise me. And surprise me has sometimes been good, and sometimes been very, very bad. But no matter what, I like to stick with surprise.
I can go for the surprise me approach in a couple of bars that I can think of, but your side of the Pacific Ocean, oof, I might skip that idea.
But see, G, that's exactly the point. See, if I did that over here on our side, I'm getting the same thing over and over and over and over. So I'm willing to take the hit sometimes, in order to discover some new things. And that's the price of admission.
I would say, okay, if I'm up in a place like Seattle, I could see it. They got some weird stuff going on these days. Yeah, otherwise I'm just afraid I'm gonna get yet another Budweiser.
Surprise me has never resulted in a Budweiser. So that's one good thing about it. And one quick correction, guys. Our studio is actually based out in Irvine, California, in Orange County. We just happened to be in Seattle for the mobile gaming last year.
Okay, well, Irvine, California, not been there.
Been there, done that, been to California, loved it. Not such a fan of San Francisco. Apparently bacon is made of tofu, and that is, in my opinion, sacrilege. But California itself, very nice place. Very nice place. And yes, there's some pretty good craft beers in California, not the Budweiser. I know I keep taking the piss out of Americans drinking Budweiser and Blue Ribbon Pabst or whatever. Blue Ribbon Pabst is actually pretty good. But some very good craft beers come out of California. Also very hot and dry and always in drought. And lots of fires. And earthquakes.
You don't hear me, but I'm knocking on a lot of wood here. You consecutively said a few things that's not good about California that I would love to avoid.
Drought, fires, earthquakes. I'm surprised you guys don't have tornadoes. It's as if the county's trying to get rid of you. I don't understand why. Anyway, guys, that is it for our little discussion with the head honcho of Chief Puzzle Officer. please guys, go down to the description, click on the bar below, follow the link through, get the game. It's actually a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it, believe it or not. Me, the first-person shooter FPS console peasant, is actually playing a mobile game, and this is actually quite interesting. So yes, guys, please, by all means, go and try it out. If you like it, thumbs up and all that jazz. Andy, hopefully you guys get to see a glorious future, and we get to see you back soon, mate.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. A lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, and from me, Andy, once you release it for the old Nokia 33 series, then yeah, let me know and I'll give it a play.
Yeah.
It's like Snake, but instead of cubes, I get rectangles or something.
Brick Breaker Chief Puzzle Officer style.
Yeah, there we go.